The removal of senior officials within the Federal Bureau of Investigation rarely happens without a clear and public explanation. When such actions occur under the weight of political context, the absence of explanation becomes part of the signal itself. In the second term of President Donald Trump, a wave of dismissals has reshaped the upper ranks of the Bureau, and the decisions are attracting close attention not only in Washington, but in allied capitals abroad. At the center of this development is Brian Driscoll, a veteran of nearly 2 decades in federal service, recipient of the Bureau's Medal of Valor and its Shield of Bravery, and a figure who briefly held the position of acting director at the start of President Trump's second term. Before the Senate confirmed Kash Patel to the permanent role, multiple sources have confirmed that Driscoll has been directed to leave his position by the end of the day. The official explanation, if one exists, has not been made public, and that absence of clarity is precisely what makes this more than an internal personnel matter. 2 other high-profile departures accompany his: Steve Jensen, who was serving as acting director in charge of the Bureau's Washington field office, and Walter Gordina, a senior special agent whose portfolio also included cases intersecting with the presidency. The pattern is notable. These are not anonymous mid-level transfers, but removals of individuals with direct knowledge and involvement in sensitive investigations, including inquiries linked to the events of January 6, 2021. To understand the weight of these changes, it is necessary to recall that Driscoll, early in President Trump's second term, resisted handing over a list of agents who had worked on the January 6th investigations. That act of resistance was not forgotten, and in the realm of federal law enforcement, the memory of such moments can outlast the administrations in which they occur. Now, with the political balance shifted, those moments can return as catalysts for decisive action. Within the Bureau, rank-and-file sentiment has been one of unease. Driscoll's farewell message to colleagues stated plainly that he had no answers for why he was being removed. The Department of Justice has not provided any official rationale, and in the absence of one, the FBI Agents Association issued a statement defending the professionalism of those dismissed, reminding both policymakers and the public that agents are assigned to cases they do not choose them, and that carrying out such assignments is part of their sworn duty. Beyond the immediate narrative of firings and resignations lies a deeper geopolitical reality. Allies observe these actions as part of a broader trend in the United States toward reasserting executive control over intelligence and law enforcement structures. For foreign governments, particularly those with histories of political reshaping of security agencies, the lesson is that even in the United States, the insulation of certain institutions from political intervention is not absolute. In rival capitals, especially in Beijing and Moscow, the calculus shifts. If political leadership in Washington is willing to restructure its own security hierarchy in pursuit of strategic alignment, the same may apply to its external intelligence posture. This restructuring is not limited to the removal of established figures. It also coincides with the arrival of individuals whose presence will invite scrutiny, such as Jared Weiss, a former FBI agent with 13 years of experience in international counterterrorism, now serving as a senior advisor within the Department of Justice. Weiss is not an unknown quantity. Police body camera footage from January 6th shows him berating officers, using language that urged on the rioters, including explicit calls to kill him, directed at security personnel. Yet the department, when questioned, has stood by Weiss, describing him as a valued member of the team. From an analytical perspective, this reveals 2 parallel movements within the same institutional space. First, the removal of senior officials linked to investigations that once reached toward the presidency. Second, the integration of figures whose past actions would, under other administrations, be seen as disqualifying, but who are now embraced for their alignment with the current strategic and political direction. Such changes do not exist in a vacuum. They shape the internal morale of federal agencies, alter the risk calculus of career officers, and influence how foreign intelligence services assess the resilience of American institutions under pressure. For adversaries, this may present both opportunities and risks. An agency in transition can be less predictable, but also less internally cohesive. For allies, the question is whether the United States intelligence and law enforcement arms remain insulated enough to maintain consistent cooperation on shared threats, from terrorism to cyber intrusion. Historically, moments when political leadership has intervened directly in the composition of security agencies have been inflection points. In other nations, such shifts have preceded broader changes in intelligence priorities, operational risk tolerance, and even the scope of surveillance domestically and abroad. In the United States, the removal of multiple senior FBI figures in rapid succession, without transparent cause, is a rare event. The last comparable reshuffling occurred in periods of national crisis, and in each case, it presaged a redirection of both investigative and counterintelligence priorities. One must also consider the signaling effect. When dismissals are executed swiftly, without public explanation, and coupled with the installation of figures seen as politically aligned, the message to the broader security apparatus is unmistakable. Loyalty and alignment are now metrics of value alongside competence and record of service. That shift, once embedded, can persist across administrations, altering the institutional culture in ways that are difficult to reverse. Externally, the Trump administration's posture will be interpreted through the lens of deterrence and control. If it is willing to confront and restructure the most politically sensitive segments of domestic security, adversaries will calculate that its resolve in foreign intelligence disputes could be equally uncompromising. At the same time, this can raise the stakes of any misstep, as rivals may seek to test the boundaries of this assertive stance. The events surrounding the firings of Driscoll, Jensen, and Gordina, and the appointment of figures like Weiss, mark a consequential moment in the intersection of law enforcement, intelligence, and political authority in the United States. It is a reminder that institutional independence, while long treated as a hallmark of the American system, is not immune to redefinition when the strategic aims of an administration demand it. In the months ahead, the durability of this approach will be measured by its impact on operational effectiveness, interagency trust, and the willingness of foreign partners to share intelligence without reservation. And as with all such shifts, the true consequences will only be visible in retrospect. But the pattern is established. A recalibration of power between the Oval Office and the nation's top law enforcement body, a recalibration that will ripple outward across domestic political lines, through the corridors of allied intelligence services, and into the calculations of those who see the United States not just as a rival, but as a security architecture whose stability is never to be taken for granted.